So imagine you're trying to launch a major movement, a cooperative alliance.
Yeah, and not in some, booming tech sector.
Right. But in an industry that's centuries old, deeply personal, and, well, it's facing this relentless corporate consolidation. We're talking about funeral services.
A very established industry.
Exactly. And the challenge isn't just surviving, it's how does a new grassroots player instantly establish authority,
Yeah.
the trust you need, and, a compelling reason for these fiercely independent owners to join forces now?
It's a huge ask. And that's the complex marketing equation we're really getting into today. Our focus is the Commander Initiative
A national cooperative for independent funeral homes.
and their vendor partners. Yeah, we're not just looking at their public ads. We've got their
Yes.
internal strategy docs,
Yeah.
their ad scripts, their growth reports.
Uh,
And this is the key part, the really sophisticated tactics they used to validate themselves with the media.
So our mission for you is to really unpack the mechanics of how they grew so fast. How did this organization pull off what is, one of the most effective market entry strategies we see in a while?
It really boils down to a dual approach.
On one hand, you have this very emotional, mission-driven message, a rallying cry.
And on the other, what they call blue chip media placement. They didn't just grow, they sprinted past the 1,000 member mark.
It's a fascinating tension to analyze, isn't it? You have this grassroots cooperative,
Right, founded on principles of local autonomy.
and they're using these high-volume, almost industrialized marketing tactics you'd expect from a Fortune 500 company. It's like using a corporate slingshot to defend the idea of the little guy.
Does that compromise the message?
Yeah.
That's the big question we have to dig into.
Okay, so let's unpack that core identity first. The mission is the foundation here. The Commander Initiative, it defines itself as a cooperative alliance.
Right, for independent funeral homes.
Mhm.
And their whole goal is to restore three things: power, profitability, and permanence.
To really get why that was so successful, you have to understand the existential dread they tapped into.
You do. Independent funeral homes are in an absolute vice right now. They have relentlessly rising costs, labor, insurance, everything.
And at the same time, they're facing these aggressive acquisition attempts from massive corporate chains.
It's more than just competition. The sources really highlight this feeling of isolation.
Yeah, they're navigating shrinking margins, all this new complexity with regulations and tech.
And they're doing it alone. So they have to deal with vendors who know they can exploit a single isolated business with, one-sided contracts and bad pricing.
They're strong in their own communities, but as a group, they just have no market leverage.
Exactly. So the initiative solution is, it's actually really simple, but powerful.
Mhm.
The principle is just unity creates leverage, organized strength.
And that leverage turns into very real, tangible benefits for the members.
Absolutely. The pitch had three core promises. First, collective purchasing power.
Which is huge. Then, direct access to a network of vendors who are vetted, who are aligned with their mission.
And maybe most importantly, protection. Protection from those exploitative relationships that can just cripple a small operation. It flips the power dynamic.
Yeah, it does.
And they're very, very clear in their materials. This isn't a franchise. It's not a corporate roll-up that's just going to be sold off later.
It's the infrastructure.
It's infrastructure built by independents, for independents. They talk about generational sustainability, so they're looking 50 years down the line, not just next quarter. Their tagline sums it all up. Independence fortified.
I thought the advertising copy around this was just brilliant. It actively changes the owner's internal conversation.
How so?
It replaces that, that defensive, paralyzing question of how do I survive?
Right.
And it flips it to something ambitious. How far can we go together?
Yeah.
It reframes the whole challenge. It's not a death march anymore. It's a counteroffensive.
And that emotional hook, that's what creates the movement. But a movement needs more than just philosophy to survive. It needs immediate, undeniable validation.
Credibility.
Exactly. Which brings us to how they built that trust so quickly.
Okay, that's the pivot point. You're a brand new cooperative. How do you instantly project the weight and scale of a legacy corporation?
You borrow it. They bypass that long, slow process of building a reputation by securing what they call blue chip media placement that Fortune 500 companies spend millions to achieve.
It's a borrowed authority strategy, and it worked.
It worked because they understood their audience. These are independent business owners, often established professionals, and they trust traditional media outlets.
Right. And the sources stress this isn't just any media. They got verified broadcast coverage across CBS, NBC, ABC, and FOX affiliates.
And they make a point of saying this is real network television, not just, a press release that got picked up by some blog.
And look at the specific examples they use in their own PR. They went for stations with real heritage. They cite KUTV, a CBS affiliate since 1954.
Think about that. For a local funeral director, seeing their organization associated with a station that carries 60 Minutes or the Masters, it immediately attaches that legacy credibility to their brand new idea.
It absolutely does. Then they mentioned WRL. It's promoted as the #1 rated NBC affiliate in a top 25 market.
It's a station that's been broadcasting since 1956.
Yeah.
For a business owner in that area, WRL is an institution. So by appearing on these specific stations, they're essentially hijacking decades of accumulated local trust.
It's a brilliant tactical move. And they also hit stations like Week in central Illinois, which is a triple affiliate NBC, ABC, and the CW. It just dominates the market there.
The whole mechanism is about using the local heritage of these big network platforms to validate a national movement.
But it wasn't just local broadcast. To really sell the idea that this thing had national scope, serious financial backing, they went for print and digital too.
Right. They highlighted getting into the Buffalo News, and they explicitly note in their ads that it's Warren Buffett's paper.
That's such a powerful, immediate signal of business legitimacy.
And to double down on that financial angle, they got into premier financial news services like Street Insider and big city papers like the LA Daily News.
So it's a 1-2 punch. Deep local trust from broadcast, reinforced by national financial gravitas from the press.
And then, for that final layer of global validation, they were featured in the International Business Times. Their reports claim it has an audience of over 10 million visits a month.
So that simultaneous saturation, local, financial, global, it creates this credibility bubble that's just, it's almost impossible to question.
It transforms the perception of a small group into an indispensable industry alliance.
And that media validation was the rocket fuel. So let's talk about how they turned that momentum into action. You can't run on free forever. They had to create some urgency.
This transition point is maybe the most strategic part of the whole launch. They proved the concept worked, going from 300 members to over 1,000 nationwide by December.
That explosive growth was the proof. It confirmed that powerful need for organized strength they were talking about.
But, like you said, rapid free expansion isn't sustainable. So to get the financial viability they needed for that generational sustainability, they used classic scarcity and deadlines.
The free ride had to end.
Exactly. The founding phase of free open enrollment was officially ending. Time to move to structured, value-based participation.
No ambiguity.
A hard stop. It forces a decision.
And you have to advertise the future price right alongside the deadline to show the value of joining now. The ads pushed the new funeral home membership cost at $99.99 a month for anyone who waited.
And this is where we found a little nugget in the analysis. There's a conflict in the source material. The ads all say $99.99, but one of the later internal reports shows an override figure of $199 a month for new members.
Interesting. So that ambiguity, whether it's intentional or not, it actually helps them.
It does. It makes that widely advertised lower cost feel like an even more urgent deal to lock in right now.
It makes the $99.99 rate feel like a window that's closing fast. But the real payoff for the early believers, the ultimate incentive, was the grandfathering clause.
Yes, they made a solemn promise. Current members, the ones who signed up for free, will be grandfathered in with no cost change, ever.
So eternal free membership for being an early adopter.
It validates the decision of those first 1,000 members and makes the cost of procrastinating feel incredibly high.
And to be fair, the fees they will collect from future members, whether it's the $99 or the $199 for funeral homes and $299 for vendors, they justify where that money goes.
They do. It's for platform operations, compliance, that crucial vendor vetting process, and of course the cooperative buying negotiations that deliver the leverage. It's a sustainable model.
And they're not stopping there. The reports mentioned plans for a tiered membership structure down the line,
Suggesting that this entry-level price, whatever it ends up being, is just the first step in their revenue strategy.
Okay, so let's shift to the tactics. They get the media validation, they use the urgency to get the members. What next? What operational advice do they give to make sure that authority is maximized? What does this blue chip coverage actually do for the individual member?
It becomes a sales tool. That's the key. The advice is that members have to immediately showcase this media coverage using as seen in badges
Why?
to maximize their own local credibility. And this is the important part. Eliminate buyer hesitation. At the moment, a family is considering their services.
Wait, hold on. So the cooperative does all this work for national coverage, and then the local funeral home uses it to sell services. Doesn't that sort of dilute the mission?
That is the strategic brilliance of the whole thing. The Commander Initiative takes on the burden of getting national validation.
So the local owner doesn't have to worry about their own marketing credibility.
Exactly. They transfer that Fortune 500 veneer to the local independent business. The goal is to make the client think, well, if CBS and the International Business Times trust this organization, then I trust my local provider who's a member.
And the placement strategy they recommend for these badges is aggressive. It's not just a logo on a window.
Not at all. They advise putting those as seen on logos, CBS, NBC, ABC, FOX at every single step of the customer journey.
You mean on their website?
Everywhere. Social media ads, the main landing page, the pages outlining services, and even on the final checkout page when someone is making a commitment.
So you're constantly reinforcing that third-party validation when the client is most likely to have doubts.
It's behavioral economics applied to PR. You're turning a PR win from a simple awareness campaign into a direct conversion tool for the local business owner. The Commander Initiative, they successfully leveraged the perception of Fortune 500 level authority. It was driven by this very targeted mass PR campaign across broadcast affiliates and respected financial platforms.
And that created this dual victory. An emotional core combined with intense industrialized validation.
Which created both immediate trust and extreme urgency. And that's what transitioned the organization from just a small concept into an indispensable 1,000-member strong movement.
Which